Uh, this isn't the video I wanted. I wanted to make. This is the video. This isn't the video I wanted to make today. But to get to where I'm getting to, and I must also remind myself that it might only ever be me or one. I don't know how many people there are in the world right now. 6 billion, 9 billion, 11 billion. For all I know, there's 5,000. Right? I'm pretty sure I could commit myself to that there are at least 5,000 people in the world. How do I know? You know? Seems as though the biggest accumulation of people in the world is Mecca. But even then, when you're there, like, what are you really seeing, right? So that comes into all kinds of philosophical questions and so on, and it's ridiculous to ask ourselves if what we're seeing isn't what we're seeing. It's that's one of the things with like tripping out or like you know, LSD or mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT or whatever, is that when you go off into these other worlds, when your whole world right here is still here, and you're seeing all these other things that aren't here, like, yes, in that sense, we're tapping into something else, but how much more powerful, right? If we pull ourselves away, like in tripping, in tripping, in tripping, if we pull ourselves away from what's here so far that what's here is no longer and other things are, if we pull our, and that's quite far away, right? That's pretty far away. If we pull ourselves that far away from what's here, how much more illuminating, elucidating, how much more enlightening, how much more gnosis, knowledge, how much more of that which is revealed if we go that far in the other direction, to where what is still here. And we take that level of imagination, of insight, of imagination, of the image. How much more so if we go that far in the other direction and see everything else that is here and not just venture off into places where here is not. Anyway, I have another video to do with proofs and synchronicities coming up. I guess this clears the way for it. But lately I've been looking into ellipses. Now, this was from what is it? Let's see. Yeah, Manis Patnaik, Indian dude. There's a bunch of Indian dudes who do awesome engineering drawings that are like, they're awesome engineering drawings, but they're also like geometrically rational, or at least they seem to be. I have my ratios and everything written here, but I've yet to prove them, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me to prove things because I'm very slow, and it takes a long time of thinking. For instance, with this image, you know, this was the initial problem. This is the initial problem that's meaning to be solved. So with here, the eccentricity is given. My concern is if I'm given a minor and a major axis of an ellipse, I want to figure out the eccentricity from there. And it took me hours, I think a couple days, before I figured out how to take the major axis, because the major axis divided by 2 is always like the radius of the minor axis where it intersects the major axis. Whoops. So if we take the major axis, divide it in 2, and we have our minor axis given, which, and that's the thing about ellipses too, like for instance this image has the, well, C here represents the directrix, but like I've only been interested in the directrix. I've only been interested in the directrix, or I haven't even been interested in the directrix. I've only been interested in the ellipse. I've only been interested in the ellipse as a spinning disk in a sphere. I'm interested in basically a great circle disk spinning in a sphere. That's been my interest. And I've not been interested in conics like at all. All these years, I've totally really just not, I've understood the hyperbola, the parabola, all that. I've understood it. It's connected with conic sections, and I've just always been like, I don't care about conic sections. And it wasn't until like 2 days ago when I downloaded Ken Wheeler's book on magnetism. It was on my phone, so I can barely read it because he wrote it in a kind of unreadable way on my little phone. I have a tablet, but I only get a gigabyte a month, and that last tetrahedron video that I uploaded like pretty well killed my gigabytes. So I gotta wait about another month before I can download Ken Wheeler's book on my tablet. It will make it much easier to read than downloading it on my phone. But anyway, I scrolled through it on my phone, and I could at least look at his pictures, and like his pictures on my phone, there's the conic and the magnet. I mean, it's so simple. Duh. So all this time back in Greek geometry, all this focus on conic sections is now connected with all the, well, Marco Rodin's pretty recent historically. In YouTube years, he's like a million years ago. But like in human history, he's now. And so all that Marco Rodin stuff. And I just came upon a new Kabbalah channel that ties a lot of the old and new stuff together in some pretty interesting ways. I'm still skeptical on base 10. But that has a lot to do with being skeptical on phi. Not skeptical, it's just so much attention is paid to phi, and so little attention is paid to the tetrahedron. And currently I'm a weeping philosopher. And when I'm not crying, I'm crying on the inside, But anyway, yeah, Manus Pitnaic, the ellipse. I'm interested in it as a sphere, but now I've also become interested in it as a conic section. And what I found connected, like the whole deal with that eccentricity eccentricity is it's almost like the slope or the rise over the run. Let's see. Ellipse distance from the directrix, blah blah blah. Eccentricity 2/3. Yeah, 2/3. Rise over run. So the eccentricity is a Cartesian phenomenon in this grid, or a y equals mx plus b type deal. But as this ellipse becomes a sphere, which means like almost completely, totally different things, if we're talking about a sphere or if we're talking about a conic section, an ellipse that is a disk, a perfect circle, those are two totally different things. But anyway, in the case where E, which here, this is the thing, because you have E as the Euler number in a disk. In an imaginary disk, you have E, which is the Euler number in the imaginary disk, in the unit circle of the imaginary plane. And then you have the E of t in rational trigonometry, which is the parameterization of a circle, a rationally trigonometric parameterized circle, where you have the E of t. Now the E of t, when it's at -1, if this is our center, enumerated differently, the E of t there is infinity, or is related to infinity. And the eccentricity of the ellipse, because what's the rise over run? What's the rise over run if you have a complete circle, right? And then if you're looking at eccentricities, if you have eccentricities, they deal with ellipses, parabolas, and hyperbolas. And this is how it breaks down. If it's greater than 1, it's an ellipse. If it's less than 1, it's a hyperbola. If it equals 1, it's a parabola. But what if it equals 0? And what if it equals infinity? Right? I guess you could say the Euler circle, the e to the I pi, or the e to the I ta equals, 0 or 1 or whatever. And the cosines and the sines and all that. That's one thing. Man. Euler, I was just listening to the thing about, I was just listening to Jordan Peterson today, and he was talking about how if you photocopied Bach's published, or like if you photocopied all of Bach's work 8 hours a day, it would take you 40 years to copy it all. Of course, that was back 9 years ago. I imagine copying's gotten a little faster. Maybe not. And that's so much like Euler, whose shit's still being published today. Now, if he was that smart to write so much shit that it's taken 200 years to not publish all of it, as pretty much the king of math. Let's face it, Euler's the king of math. Kind of like Ben Franklin's the king of the United States. There's a million ways you could parse that analogy, and they pretty much all work. He wasn't a president. He gave away the lightning rod. He gave away the wood stove. No patent. Why? Because he just wanted people to be better. Also, mathematics is unpatentable. And I guess you could say the same about Bach, right? I don't know. Does anybody hold the copyright protection to Bach? Am I allowed to say it? Is my video gonna get deleted because I said the word Bach? But anyway. Yeah, I just found that really interesting that when you have eccentricities that are at 0 or infinity, it's similar to the way in which in rational trigonometry, as you're dealing with the parameterization of a circle, you also reach infinities. That's kind of interesting. And that it's all wrapped up in E, and that you're dealing with a circle. So then all of a sudden you're tying together the idea of the imaginary circle, the complex circle, and the simplex circle. Seemed important. I have some work to do. I was pretty excited to realize that. All right, so with the minor and the major axes, I'm able to establish this point. With the given information of the problem, I was able to establish these points, create this line, and create this ellipse. But with simply the major and the minor axis, I'm able to establish this point from the focus and then shift it up. That gives me this point up here, it also gives me the focus, which gives me this point right here. So with this point here and this point here, I'm then able to establish the eccentricity line, which allows me to establish the directrix. It took me a long while. I mean, I say a long while. You know, I had everything given to me. But it took me a long while. I'm sitting there thinking, scratching my head, like, how the hell am I going to get this? Because I was trying to figure out how to get to this. I was trying to figure out how to get to this point from this point. But as long as I have this and this, because I know from this how to get this, I can skew that up and get this. And because I already have this, I can come up to here and get this and bring this down. And because I also already have this, I can get this and that. And that made me happy. I'll try to make a better video of it. I know I never made good videos of anything. Okay. Maybe 1 in 10 of my videos are good. If I could get to a place where, like, if I could get to a place where 1 in 5 were good, that would be amazing. But maybe we could split the difference. Maybe, realistically, if I could get to a place where 1 in 7 of my videos were good, that would be awesome. But anyway, I'm going to try to animate this because I'm concerned with the disc spinning. I'll learn a little bit about conics, which I haven't been concerned with. All the time that I've been thinking about an ellipse, I've always been thinking about it. I've always been thinking about an ellipse as a spinning disc, essentially inside a sphere, as a great circle, or as a, I don't know what the right word is, subcircle, a whatever the, okay, so like a chord is a line through a circle that doesn't go through the diameter. Whatever the planar equivalent of that is that goes through a sphere, that's been my interest as far as ellipses go. Also, depending on how you move a sphere around, that's been my main interest. So now I've just barely become interested in conic sections, so that'll be something else that has to be dealt with. But so I have an animation I'm going to be working on, like, pretty much for sure, because I've put a lot of work into preparing myself for it, which means I've spent 2 days going like this. But I think I'll get there. I think I'll watch a few more ellipse videos. It's shocking how dumb I am. Oh boy. And it's shocking that for how dumb I am, I'm able to compile in any way any of this information. But as I'm doing it, I feel a little better. Ellipses from 2 days ago to today are a little less ambiguous. But I still have a lot of work to do on the proofs, so I'll probably have to watch some like Khan Academy videos, and maybe some number files always helpful, and it's fun. And I'm sick of shit being so like serious and boring. Not that shit ain't serious, because it is. It's just, I tire of things being so artificially heavy. In the midst of true heaviness, which is weird. Because I suffer this artificial heaviness, which is just feelings and emotion, and it's like, my life's great. I got tons of food. I got a warm fucking place to live. I got working plumbing for the moment. I got a stove. I got a car. I got a job. Got problems with my teeth, this, that, or whatever, but I mean, I drink like a fish. I smoke. I mean, the fact that I'm not on the ground already is a fucking miracle. You know? I'm like, but yet, you know, whatever the case may be, I suffer this, like, what feels to me like this heavy burden trauma. Most of it's artificial. In the midst of the true trauma of the world, of people, of animals, of the planet, and by fucking golly, gods and God. God knows all. Does anybody, sympathy for the devil, Rolling Stones, right? Good tune. People dance. Hey, I ain't got nothing against it. But imagine the sympathy for God, who not only knows your suffering, my suffering, but the suffering of everything. And once again, if God's not something you're into, then I mean, as rationality points to a pinnacle. There's a point. Rationality has a point, a center, nexus. So, if there is not a thought form, if there is not a mimetic complex, that definitively holds this knowledge, this experience, this sensation, this bridge between the intellect and intelligibles, then we can at least philosophically or rationally conceive of a place, of a space, of an intellectual place, of an intellectual space, of a concept, of an idea, of something that is the Venn diagram of all Venn diagrams of where all suffering, all loneliness, all hurt collapses upon. So if God, if you're into God, or if the space where God isn't, if that's what you're into, exists, it's one or the other, right? Is there a third option? Rationally? Philosophically? I'm sorry, I'm being like wicked. I'm being wicked and I want to be wise. The place where the place where all suffering, all loneliness exists. Not sure why I came there. I'll have to rewatch this to figure it out. But that's kind of the theme lately. Because we care too much about everything else. And what we don't care about is the suffering of our equals and the suffering of our lessers, and the way in which we really are the measure. And I guess we'll get to that at some point. But we really are the measure. But that's the thing. Everything is the measure of all things. Everything is the measure of all things, but little else other than us as we know ourselves has such an effect. Anyway, it's still all just about trying to figure out the right ratios and proportions and trying to get the right pictures in the right way and trying to think three-dimensionally, which is so freaking hard. Trying to think three-dimensionally. It's a major problem. not easily understood. And even the simplest shapes in the universe take a lot of work, care, consideration, and patience. As quickly as we want to work, it's good that we're slowing down, because we work so quickly on so many things that need not be. And the things that are already are, that need be preserved, we, me, I, neglect. And then between those two things, the things gentle or complicated that could bloom just don't have a chance to come to be. So maybe I'll remember that. Thanks to my betters for reminding me to remind myself now, then, now. And I hope so. I hope I have something good. I hope I have something good to show. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But enough dumb shit. If enough dumb shits like me keep trying, eventually we'll come up with something. And the something, or the some things we need to come up with, is what has come before. Because what has come before has built what is now. But not just what has come before. We also need to come to what hasn't been come to yet. Not just scientifically, but here, collectively, right? Because despite what those who have come before have done elsewhere, had they, our ancestors, who we give too little and too much credit to, had they got it right here and here, we wouldn't have to be working so hard to get it right here and here. Right? It's a way of thinking about it. Ellipses. Hope to figure it out.